Hello everyone, welcome to today's presentation in the one that we are going to show you how to introduce and to use in our software CYPE for concrete structure a post-tensioning slab. How to use, how to work with, and how to solve the problems that we can find in the introduction of these elements and in the way to work with these elements. First of all, I want to recommend you that you can check all these options of the module in our website, that is www.cype.com. Inside you can check all the features that we have and how to, with some examples, how to work with. But we are going to the point, and we are going to introduce and to use in the program a real example to see the capabilities of our solution. First of all, we are going to introduce a new file. In this case, it will be example post-tensionet. Okay, and also we can introduce any kind of description. Also, I want to go very fast and through the options that we have in CYPE, because we have already made other seminars to explain on detail how to work and all the options that we have in the program. But just to remind some of the options, that to remind you how we can introduce the project that we have. We can from metal 3D for metal structure and to do composite structure, from DXF for DWG file, from most common is AutoCAD, or from IFC models from any kind of BIM software. It could be ArchiCAD, Allplan, or any other software from 3D modeling. In this case, we are going to make an empty job. First of all, we are going to select the codes that we are going to work on the project. In this case, we are going to do something very general and something very standard, that we are going to select the Euro codes for this project, and we are going to accept. Also, we can check the loads, the automatical loads that we have, and the additional if we want to introduce some of them. Also later on we can check here also the post-tensioned loads that we are going to apply on the project. We are going to accept, and also the limit states. Now we are going to introduce a floor, new floor, single one. I'm going to select 4 meters and dead load and live load for this example, and accept. And now we are going to introduce the columns. We go select new column. Okay, we are going to modify. I'm going to introduce 40 by 40, and now we are going to introduce the columns like this one, and I want to introduce a span of 8 meters, for example. Okay, and again, probably you, as at the same time that we are introducing, you are reminding and how is the way to introduce the elements, in this case the columns. Once we already introduced the columns, I want to introduce the beam and the slab. We are going to do, in this case, very simple example, but in the way to work with all these elements, and then we are going to do it very fast. I want to select beams, define a beam. We remind you the families for different type of beams that we have, like lattice beam, dropped beam, beam with external fixity, flat beams. In this case, I want to use a non-limit beam, a limit beam, sorry. Accept. I want to use the continuous way to introduce the beam. finish the introduction, and now I want to adjust to the face of the columns. Probably you remember how easy it is to do it. And now I'm going to introduce the slab, several options of different typologies of slabs. In this case, I want to introduce a flat slab, 25 centimeters, and okay. Now we already introduced the structure, the one we are going to work with. And to see the difference, first of all, I want to analyze the job and to introduce the reinforcement automatically. Okay, once we already finalize the analysis, we can go to the results and we can see the proposal that the program gives us with the reinforcement. Also, we can see on the slab. Also, we have different type of views. In this case, we are seeing longitudinal top. I want to see transverse reinforcement or bottom. Okay. Well, I want to see now the top again, and for example, also we can introduce, for example, we can assign the base reinforcement on the slab, for example, and I want to introduce, for example, this one to all of them. Okay, and now I'm coming here, sorry, to this option, and we can, sorry, here, and match reinforcement, redesign slab, and we are going to make to see how will be this slab with this base reinforcement that we are introduce for this slab. This is a good example to also to remind you the possibilities that we can have on the program, that we can introduce a base reinforcement, that when we do the analysis the program gives us a solution or a proposal for the reinforcement. Now I want to come back and I don't want to assign any base reinforcement for this example, but it was interesting to have the view about how it could be with and without both options, how will be the result on the example. Okay, exit, and now here we are again. Also, I want to remind you also again the way that we can modify the reinforcement, and also we can, for example, we can modify the width of the reinforcement, and we can select, for example, this bar, and we can select to have the same type of bar on in the different parts of the slab, that it will be probably and for sure more practical in the execution. This is with the best accuracy proposal of the program, but sometimes in the practical point of view, it's better to have same length of reinforcement in a big parts or on the slab. Okay, once we see how it works, the program, how we introduce the reinforcement automatically, and how we can work with, we can assign base reinforcement, we can change the width and the length on the slab of the reinforcement. We can come back to the beam definition, and now we are going to start with itself the post-tensioning elements. Then for that we come here to the option of post-tensioned, and first of all we can see here we have several options. First one is the layout. Okay, in the layout is the option when we are going to configure the parameters that we are going to work with on the options. In this case, we can change the values for the length to create a curved section, also the distance between the tendons, the length of the midspan flat section, and the distance to the bottom surface at midspan. And for all these options, also the distance to the top surface. And in all the options, we see beside a number, in this case 1, 2, 3, and always in the layout we can see where is exactly the part that we are going we are configuration and we configure in every single moment. And when we change these parameters, what we are doing is change the value for these parts on the tendons, for example. Also, we can modify the tension in loads, in this case for the yield strength, the resistance and losses. And all these options and all these values, we can keep it as a default settings. That it means that when we are going to open a new project, these settings that we configure this time are going to be the same ones. Then it's not necessary to introduce every single time and all the parameters and all the configuration for all the elements. Okay, we are going to set these default settings, and now we are going to introduce the tendon flexure lines. In this case, are going to introduce the distance to the top surface, and it will be 5 centimeters. We are going to accept, and we select from here till here, here to here. Sorry, maybe we can say much better like that, and here to here. Okay, let me change the background color, and now you can see much better that we introduce the flexure lines on the slab. Okay, once we introduce the flexure lines, in this case we select 5 centimeters. Also, we have different also other options that we have to obviously to delete, to edit, to assign flexure line on the tendons. And we are going to introduce concentrate tendons. We have distributed tendons and concentrate tendons. We are going to work with both of them in this example, and we are going to start with concentrate tendons. First of all, we can change as we'll see on the options and the general options, but for every parameter, in this case for the concentrate tendon, we can modify all the values. In this case, we can change the number of tendons, we can change the strip width. Also, we have here this option that we can add a flexure line for the tendons, but or in this case, because we already introduced in the previous option the flexure lines, we are going to not tap this option because in this case is not necessary. But if we don't introduce in the first step the flexure lines, we can add automatically these flexure lines on the tendons, in this case on the concentrate tendons. Also, we are going to select the typology of the anchorage that we want to work with in the initial anchorage and the final anchorage, and the stressing and the dead anchorage. In this case, we are going to do it very standard. In the initial anchorage, we are going to select the stressing one, and on the final anchorage, the dead one. And the parameters for me is fine. Now the tendons. Okay, now we are going to select the type of tendons, and for that we are going to introduce the typology of tendons. I want to introduce T1, for example. It could be bound or unbound, the number of strands, and we can change all the parameters for this tendon. In this case, the strand area, the radius of curvature, the dug width, etc. For this example, I'm going to select the general parameters, the default settings on this example, and I want to introduce another type of tendon that we can call it T2, and instead 3 it will be with 4, and I accept. For example, every single time, once we already introduced these tendons, we can edit the tendons, and also we can copy or we can export. And when we export, we create a library for tendons, and every single time when we have a new project, we can import these tendons, as and the same way that happens with the options. We can have already introduced all these different typologies of tendons that we have, or the ones that we want to work with, and we can import. Then it's not necessary to introduce every single time all the parameters. We can have it already, and we can import and work with. Then it becomes very fast and very practical way to work. Now we are accept. Now we are here the different type of tendons that we want to work with. In this case, I want to select T1 and accept, and I'm going to introduce the tendons from here to here. Now we'll see how we introduce. I want to here to change, and I want to introduce in this one the other typology of tendon, and accept, and I want to introduce from here to here. Also, one of the things that we'll see is how we can see in a very quick view. We give you different kind of items that we can see the difference. In this case, here we have this icon, the triangle, and here is a square. Then in a very quick view, and we know that in one of the on these tendons are from the T1 type, of the T1 type, and these ones are from the T2 type. Okay, once we already introduced these tendons, in this case concentrate, I want to introduce the distribute tendons. It's all the options are very similar for ones and the other ones. In this case, I want to change the final anchorage and the separation between the tendons. And for this example, T1 is fine. Also, I want to remind you that in this particular case, or in the same way in the other ones, we can change the particular parameters for the tendon, and then not to use the general parameter. If not, we can customize this tendon on this option for every time. For this, I want to select general job parameters. I accept, and I want to introduce from here to here and more or less to here. I want to try to do something symmetrical. Okay, we already introduced the tendons for the post-tensioning option. Okay, one of the things that we'll see, I want to change the background color again, because probably you can see it more clear. We have here these warnings that advise us that here we have intersection of two tendons, and this is the dimensions of 164 and 172 millimeters. Also, if I want to edit the tendon, we'll see here in which part we have the conflict. Also, this screen also is very helpful to have all the information. The one that we can change, in this case we can change the typology of the tendon. Also we can change the initial and final anchorage. Also we can change the layout if we want to change the parameters for the tendon or the particular tendon or a specific tendon. And also we can see here the loads that we have on this tendon. Here we can see the point loads and the line loads. For the loads also, we have here this option that we can see the view of the loads, and here we can see all the complete loads on the slab for the tendons, as you can see. that are the same values that we'll see when we edit each tendon, or if we want to edit each tendon, we'll see these values. And but with this view of the loads, we can have a quick quick overview, a big picture in general in one site, that we can see all the loads and all the parameters for the loads on the tendons. Okay, once we already see the loads, post tension, and we're back. Also, we can see a 3D view on the tendons, and here probably we can see here sorry. Okay, I want to approach to the tendons because we can see in 3D view where are the conflicts. Here we can see that we are touch on the tendons in a 3D view, in a real not a real, in 3D view, with a real size, the conflict that we have on the tendons. Okay, now we are going to see how we can solve this conflict, this problem that we have on the tendons. And edit tendons. We'll see here that it was a problem in the intersection of the two tendons. Okay, one of the things that that we can do is I remind, but anyway we are going to see here, when we introduce the flexure lines, we introduce the same distance to the top surface in the both sides of the flexure lines. Now what I can do is I can change these flexure lines. Instead 5, I'm going to introduce 8, and here also I can introduce 8 again, and I can accept. And now we'll see that instead the 4 that we have in the tendon horizontal, we can see that now we only have these 2 conflict right now. And now we are going to see how we can modify this. Then we change, we edit, in this case, the parameter of the flexure line, and we solve in part the conflict that we have with the tendons. And other options is that we can move the anchors, and in this case we can move the anchors on this side till we don't have this problem, or also on the other side, like this one and like this one. And when we can edit the tendons, we'll see always what are the results of this modification that we are doing on the tendon, in this case moving the anchor from one side to the other side of the slab. Okay, well, this is a type of solution that we can do, but also another solution that also it could be very practical. It could be a mixed solution, and for this I want to, we are going to delete all these tendons, and what we can do is to introduce, for example, distribute tendons, and with the same parameters that we introduced before for here, but I'm going to introduce till here, and from here till here, for example. Now we have this, and we'll see that we don't have any type of conflict here. And also I can introduce concentrate tendons, and for example, instead 3 tendons I want to select, instead 4 tendons, sorry, I can select 3, and I want to introduce from here to here. And for example, this could be also a very good solution, that for this case we select distributed tendons in both parts on this both sides of the slab, and for the midpoint of the slab we can select concentrate tendons also in the same way, so we can move these anchors. But as we'll see before, we go to have this problems with the flexure lines, with the other conflicts with the tendons, then my suggestion in this case is to leave it with the standards parameters. Okay, now once we see how easy it is to introduce, also we already see the way that we can modify the parameters and also the configuration for the text, for the flexure lines and for the tendons. Also we show you how to move the anchors. We can also edit the anchorage, and when we find kind of conflicts or kind of small problems with the intersection of the tendons, how different ways to solve these problems. Now we are going to go to the first of all to analyze and including foundation, and later on we are going to see the results of this analysis. Okay, let's go. Okay, once we have already analyzed the job, we can go to the results, and this is the same screen that we'll see previously, but previously was only the reinforcement without the post-tensioning elements. Now we have this slab with the post-tension elements. Also we can have here the views, no sorry, here also like that. We can see also in the slab we can have the view, the post-tensioning tendons and the reinforcement that we are implemented, or the program solution that we give us with the reinforcement. Also we can see as well the loads like that. Well, in this case it's not looks like a very good idea because there's too much information on the same screen. Let me see position view. I don't want to see the tendons, for example, and for this for the reinforcement. Okay, I want to take away the loss. Okay, and in the same way that we always can do on CYPE, now we can see or we can modify the distribution width of the reinforcement, or we can apply a base reinforcement that we'll see in the first part of this presentation, but once we introduce the post-tensioning elements. Okay, also we want to see the contour maps. I like to see with the values on the screen, and we can see the displacements also in all directions, in load case and combination, and in post-tensioning in this case. Also we can see the forces, in the same, the shear and the moment, and also for the post-tensioned. Okay, the design forces in X and Y, and top and bottom steel, and for example also the steel areas, and the same way bottom and top in both directions. Then we can see all the in this case also with the values how it will be this the contour maps, and also we can have a tab with the deformer shape. I want to have it here with the with the mesh. Here we'll see in the load case on self-weight with dead load. Also we can, I want to do something to see the difference. I introduce 300 that we'll see here with the self-weight, and now we are going to the forces that we are going to the deformate in the post-tension that will be in the opposite way, like that. Once we see all this information, also we can have the reports, the job data report, slab reinforcement report, the takeoffs, column distortion, column displacements, forces and reinforcement on the columns. Also we can see here the ultimate limit states and the concrete sections, floor by floor. Also is one of the options that we have in all the program, that the ways that we can export. Just to remind you that we can export to text, to HTML, to PDF, Word 2003, Word 2007, and also we can have a report for the post-tensioning elements as well. The typology of the materials, the description, when the initial and final anchorage, what is the type of anchor that we are using, the deviation loads, and for the families, and the takeoffs for the strands, for the active and passive anchors, and in this case the ducts for the unbounded tendons. Okay, well, basically we already see all the information, and this is all the analysis that we can have, and now we only need to print out the drawings, the final drawings. We can in this case we are going only to see the drawings for post-tensioned. We can the detailing of all the drawings. Also we can see this is final drawings with the symbols. Also I want to remind you that these drawings we can export to AutoCAD or to any CAD drawing software that you can use, and also I want to remind you all the different type of drawings that we have for contour line, cover drawings, floor plans, layout plan, for example, as well, like this one. Okay. Nope. Like that. And if we want to see as well the floor plan, for example, with reinforcement like that, and we accept. Okay. This on the example that we have, because in this case we don't modify the reinforcement on the slab, but this is how it will be final drawings. We can introduce also the bar bending schedule, etc. Okay, basically we, for this presentation, we already see all the options on the program. We want to make this a small presentation to see you the capabilities of this module, and just in case to remind you that in the way that we introduce the post-tension elements, that we can select the different typology of tendons that could be concentrate or distribute. Also we can introduce the flexure lines we can work with, we can delete, we can assign, and also we can edit, and we can move the anchor and edit the anchorage. Always also we can see a 3D view with how is the behavior of the tendons on the slab. And also we show you the way to solve certain very common problems that you can find when you use this typology of a slab, or in this case this typology of options like post-tensioning, and different types of or ways to solve these problems that you can find that is in the conflict with the tendons in one side and in another side. Or some solutions are like edit the flexure lines, or we can move the anchors from one side to the other side, or we can work with a different typology of tendons in one side of the slab or in another one. Then there are different ways to solve this problem. I want to thank you to attend on this presentation. For any kind of request, doubt or question, you can address to our email address that is support@cype.com, and we'll see you on the next presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.